back to the podcast. I am your co-host, Keone McKeague, and with me, as always, are my three co-hosts and friends, Jared Shirai, Nolan Chang, Jalen Holston. Say what's up to the pod, boys.
What's good, y'all?
What it do?
Hello. What a fucking wild card weekend we had, huh?
Hell yeah.
Woo. Spicy in here.
You telling me, but before we get into that, unfortunately, we're going to start with a little bit of sad news.
Uh-oh.
I know. So this morning, we got the unfortunate news that two people from the Georgia team that just won the championship, an O-lineman by the name of Devin, Willock, and a staffer by the name of Chandler LaCroix passed in an unfortunate car crash this morning. We just want to take the time to acknowledge that this is so unfortunate to hear about. This is such a sad time. Obviously, Georgia just won the championship. This is not the type of news you want to hear at any time, but we would like to send well wishes and prayers to the families. We could not even imagine how terrible this must be for you guys. Do you guys have any other thoughts you guys like to add?
Life comes at you fast, and sometimes you have no idea when your last breath could be. So make sure you tell those you care about, that you love. Let them know. Give them those kind of small little text messages, those little calls, those little extra 5 minutes of conversation whenever you see each other.
Anybody else?
Just got to remember where you are and where you're going, man. Appreciate the time you got with everybody, you know?
I would say, you just got to make the most of every moment. Live it like it's your last and be appreciative of the things that you're able to get, Coming off a national championship, I hope, highest point of your life, but you still got to remember that it can be taken away from you in a quick turn of a second. So just live it like it's your last, but be pretty careful about what you do, whether it's be celebrating or just like us here in California don't know how to drive in the rain. And, we had the biggest thunderstorm yesterday, and there were a lot of accidents on the road. There were a lot of cops on the road. So, just at any moment, it can take a quick 180 for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So like we said, prayers out to the families, condolences to everybody who was involved, and we just hope for a speedy recovery for the other three who were in the accident as well. With that said, and that somber news out of the way, we'd like to move over to some of the news that came out. Obviously, Jalen started us off with some of the stuff that did happen over this wild card weekend. We had a lot of games that were played, a lot of craziness that happened. But first of all, I'm going to start actually with you, Jared, because you've been calling it all year. You called your shot, and it was a hell of a shot. You called the guy who was going to take down the Chargers.
I was so ready to give him his kudos too this episode. I watched that.
We were all ready to go.
We were all going to give this dude his
Jared's
kudos.
going to love this.
It was a very large comeback, 27-0 going into the half, I believe. And what a comeback. So, Jared, I'm going to throw it to you. You got to see it.
It was actually 27-7. He threw a touchdown He threw a touchdown right before the
it was the Ingram, right?
But basically it was 27-0. Yeah. I mean, 4 interceptions in the first half. I think it was 4 in the first half. Yeah. And then he turns around and he throws 3. He gets 3 more in the second half on top of the 1 that he had right before halftime. I mean, I don't know. Trevor Lawrence, like I said, I think he's taken his bumps and bruises in the first year in the league. He's been that guy in a sense of wanting to prove people wrong, even when he was in college. Was he at Syracuse?
No, he was at Clemson.
No, he was at Clemson. I was like, it was an orange team. I just remember it was an orange team. I was like, it was an orange team.
Colors.
I was like, they have the same colors. I just don't know what they're not notable. No, I'm just kidding. But no, I mean, for me with him, I love to give him the kudos. Keone will go on his rant about the Chargers, and we're okay. I'm okay with that. but I mean, the Jaguars.
I've done enough of that ranting today, man.
But I mean, I'm happy for him. For him, I think Doug Peterson gets his kudos. I know we're going to talk more about that a little later, but like the fact that they were able to turn it around after everybody thinking that you're down and out, you're down 27-0. We already seen one collapse this year. You don't think it's going to happen in a playoff game, especially with everything being at high risk. The fact that they were able to come back and pull it off,
especially when you're the 3rd rated QB going into the season, just saying. Anyway, let's move on.
Yeah, but for me, I mean, it's so great to see, like, for him to have such a good head on his shoulders after throwing the 4 interceptions, being able to go into the locker room, resettle, regroup with his team, and come out banging in the second half. I mean, the fact that they were able to pull off the comeback just goes to show, like, resilience is a real thing, and that Trevor Lawrence, for me, I mean, most improved player, comeback player of the year, whatever. He's that guy this year. He really is. And I'm so glad he got his kudos in this game.
Going to throw this one over to you, Nolan, because it's been talked about after the big comeback game. It's a huge storyline heading into the rest of the playoff season. Do you think that Doug Peterson, the head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars, deserves to be coach of the year?
I don't know if I would say coach of the year. I think he's had a very successful season in comparison to the past. But, and maybe it's a little different from football and NFL because obviously I'm just kind of jumping into this world a little more.
Also, sorry, not to cut you off. Super far back reference, but Doug Peterson was the head coach of that Nick Foles-led Eagles team that won the Super Bowl.
Gotcha.
The guy we couldn't figure out his name. It was Doug Peterson.
Gotcha.
Anyway, sorry, moving.
But I was going to say, coming into this game, they were 9-8. I don't know if it's different for NFL standards, but I wouldn't consider that someone being the coach of the year because if you really look at it, maybe we should have. If that's the case, we should give it to Dan Campbell with the Lions because he just fucking took off in the second half of the season. His team was able to produce some big wins. He is
one of the finalists for coach of the year.
It is
possibly the
dependent
Giants coach right now.
He is another one that is up there.
If he pulls this off, that's
But I would say I don't necessarily think it was. I mean, I don't know all the X's and O's and strategic play for that game specifically, but it could just be more of a crumble from the coach from the Chargers standpoint, and probably Justin Sherbert because no one's scared of Sherbert ice cream because that guy just crapped the bed in the second half. I was watching that game. I was like, there's no way, right? There's no way. And I joked about it with my friends in the group chat because my friend is a longtime Chargers fan. He rode through the trenches with Phillip Rivers as their quarterback, and he was crying. Not crying, but he was like upset because I was like, wow, strong start for them. He's like, the game's still very long. I was like, okay. I was like, watch. He just missed that field goal. Watch. They're going to lose by a field goal. What'd they do? They lost by a field goal. He's like, thanks a lot, Nolan. I was like, I'm sorry, guys. I didn't mean that. But I do think that.
Was it Shane?
Especially
I knew it was
professional
Shane.
Sports, there is more of a.
Miss you, buddy.
Don't take your no, not Shane. Don't take your foot off the gas pedal. It's if you're gonna win a game, you're gonna win a game. There's no room for error. There's no time to kind of say, you know what, we can relax a little bit. We got such a lead, especially in a game like football where things can turn in one quarter. I think that it is important for these teams to kind of take accountability where it is, and I guarantee you every Charger player waking up this morning felt it, that they could have done something different in order to make something happen.
If you've seen the video, Derwin James definitely felt it. And that's a guy who played out of his mind the entire year. So I mean, there is something to be said definitely about the mental toughness of letting a 27-7 even lead go. But I'm going to throw it over to you, Jay. Was this something that you kind of saw a possibility of happening, that there would be this upset, or was this kind of a bigger surprise for you?
I wouldn't have called it quite as much of an upset. I felt like, honestly, it was going to be a tight game regardless heading in. I was like kind of hoping the Jaguars would pull off the air quote upset because matchup-wise for Kansas City, we literally just match up better with the Jaguars than we do the Chargers. So if we can eliminate that, that would have been cool. But realistically, I'm like, all right, we're probably playing the Chargers. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But then, hey, Justin Herbert is just really taking notes from the Phillip Rivers era on how to blow huge games when it matters. And
it's Justin Sherbert now.
Sherbert, excuse me, Sherbert. And it's just kind of phenomenal to watch. But no, not to dig on that young man too much. I want to probably lean this more on their head coach. I think he's incredibly overhyped for what he's done and for what he's done with what he has. Eckler is easily one of the most freak athlete running backs that is in the league. I would argue even up there with Christian McCaffrey. He's
the strongest, that's for sure.
He had like 7 touches in the second half. You are up 27-7. That is we are going downhill and running the ball. We're playing possession football for the rest of this quarter. If you get 2 or 3 possessions, good luck. You know what I mean? Good luck, because our defense is gross. But good luck. We're going to eat the clock. We're going to move the ball. But instead, what he tried to do was make Herbert the hero and made him Herbert the 0. Like, that is exactly what happened. And then you let Trevor Lawrence run that game for you.
Got to be the hair cotton.
It's got to be the hair cotton. Yeah, I want to say that I'm surprised, but also not, because I was expecting it to be tight regardless. I didn't think he was going to be that bad in the first half, though. I will say, I thought Trevor Lawrence was going to kind of, be a little bit more ready to go.
Yeah. Dude, I checked the score and I was like, what is going on? I checked the stats.
He's starting off 4 interceptions. You would have thought that guy would have crumbled in the second half and just been like timid the whole way through, but he was slinging it.
Ice.
It's called
ice.
Tough mental capacity, man. That boy just had it going in there.
Big kudos.
And I give Doug Peterson some kudos for after a quarterback throws 4 interceptions, I don't care who's sitting behind you. Like
you were
going to pull that kid, you know.
Yeah.
We could have let the punter maybe throw some balls. I mean, they would have been just as good. And the fact that he stood in there and he shows why he's a top-notch coach. So.
Yeah, I agree. And then, it's just one of those things. I don't want to hear Justin Herbert's name mentioned in the top quarterback conversation. I don't want to see him sniffing around. Nothing. Because again, he has not won a playoff game, and these analysts continue to put him up there with Burrow, Mahomes, and Allen. It is ridiculous.
Sure. I mean, I'm just gonna make a long rant short, because I've already gone through this discussion a billion times off of this pod, thanks to all of the Chargers fans that I'm friends with. The reason why I said what I said, and I'm sticking to what I said about him being one of the most overrated quarterbacks, is because they place him in that company. And exactly what Jay just said. He is not that dude. He is not with the Mahomeses, the Josh Allens.
Yeah, who the heck would have drafted him?
Somebody who saw the rankings and saw that he was rated 3rd. Anyway, and I said this from the get go. He's going to be overhyped because he can sling the ball and he's a big kid, but in the same sense, he hasn't shown yet that he can be the X factor for that team. Regardless of the coaching situation, it's just that's where I'm at with his play thus far, and he hasn't shown me anything better. Look at his QBR rating for this year. He was middle of the pack, and he was actually near some of the quarterbacks that we consider either mid or bad, and that's like Daniel Jones, Kirk Cousins, guys like that. I mean, when you're rated there.
Speaking of Kirk Cousins, just lost the wild card round, proving to me what I've said all year long, that the Vikings are not for real and they're a joke. Thank you.
Wow. Yeah, who would have drafted him? Jefferson, huh? Right?
Who would have drafted Kirk Cousins?
I wish I could just turn my camera to our draft board like every time you say that, just to see.
Look, I'm telling you right now, you guys named 4 quarterbacks, and I had 2 of the 4.
That's true. Wow.
Oh, what's that? We just lost Jared's feed.
Anyway, I'm going to actually swing this next topic over to you, Jalen, because I think that you kind of had some nice takes on it early on. So I'm going to talk about Brock Purdy putting on a show.
Been saying it, Keone.
As far as they've released thus far, he is going to be starting over Jimmy G, whether or not Jimmy G is healthy. So.
I told you.
I told you.
Yep.
I'm telling you, Mr. Irrelevant is going to run them to the Super Bowl. I swear to God. It is going to happen. Philadelphia is not that team. They just aren't. I'm sorry. If they were as good and as amazing, right, they would have won without Jalen Hurts. So, clearly, without your boy, you ain't nothing. Whereas last year's playoffs, Pat Mahomes literally gets injured. And then we have to go and believe in Chad frickin' Henne, who hasn't played a meaningful snap since he was in Carolina, to win that game in the fourth quarter. And then we won the game. Anything is possible. Biggest Chad I've ever had in my life. Then we choked it against Joe Burrow. But hey, that's for another day. But yeah, so like that to me just says a lot about that young man and what he's able to do. I'm not surprised at all. I'm going to hold to it. 49ers are going to run through everyone and get to the Super Bowl because the NFC is, I'm sorry, like it's just awful. Like it is not the same level as what we're talking about with the AFC playoffs, where we just saw two really, really good teams go play. One got upset, right? And like the Dolphins, like barely lost to the Bills, who are one of the top teams in the NFL. And I expect the Ravens-Bengals game to go the same way tonight, regardless if Lamar Jackson's playing or not. I still expect that to go the same way because the AFC as a whole is just a better football conference right now. It just is. And I don't know if we're ever going to see the NFC be as competitive as the AFC again. I just don't know if it's going to happen. And from my memory, like it kind of feels like it's always been that way. Like we had Drew Brees in New Orleans.
You saying it without saying it, Jay. You saying it
I'm
without
sorry,
saying
but
it.
like it's just a trash conference. It really
There it
I'm
is.
sorry. Like
Okay,
it's
now
just
you said
a
it with
trash
saying
conference.
it as well.
Like it's not. I'm sorry, but it is. Like until one of these quarterbacks comes from the AFC and goes down there, like it's just trash across the board. Like Kyler Murray, unfortunately he got hurt, but even when he was healthy, not working. Right?
Yeah.
Like not
There's
at all.
a little drama
God
queen,
knows
man.
what's happening in fucking Green Bay right now. Like that's just a disaster.
Sticking to Aaron Rodgers.
There's somehow discussion about Justin Fields being traded, even though the Bears have the top pick in the draft, which to me is just categorically insane. He's a fantastic young quarterback that you can just work your field, work your team around and build on.
Thinking
like,
about picking up Bryce Young.
what does that even
Alabama.
mean? That's so stupid. Like it's beyond stupid.
I don't know.
So yeah, so when you have all of that dysfunction, all these teams, like when you think about teams that are really good, it's like just the 49ers right now. You know what I mean? Like the Eagles aren't for real. I'm sorry, Eagles fans, but you're not. If you were, you would have beaten like a meaningful team at all this season, even if Jalen was healthy. The Cowboys are always overhyped, even though they have the most expensive roster, as we all know. Dak Prescott is just terrible. They have Dak issues, if you know what I mean. So
Dak
that's
issues.
that's just how it's going to go. And even furthering my point, everyone thought the Vikings were really back and like on top, just lost to the Giants, who are at best mid. You know what I mean? Like that is a mid team. They've been a mid team all season. What is happening? And then the Lions go on this wonder run through the last leg of their season to just basically knock off a bunch of these really powerhouse NFC teams and AFC teams. Like what is this conference? Versus you look at the AFC, every game is damn near a playoff game whenever people match up with each other. Like we have, the Browns who kind of get excluded, tossed aside. Steelers had a rough year, but they're still competitive. But like the top 8, 9 teams that we're seeing in the AFC playoffs right now are insanely better than the NFC.
So let me ask you guys a question because I don't think any other sport has kind of been doing this. Would you feel that it might be a more interesting looking league if
You
they
abolish the
kind of,
conferences.
not even that. I was gonna say kind of in that line with that, but they divvy things up power ranking wise based off of how they look at things. Where it's like 1 goes to NFC, 2 goes to 3 goes to NFC, 4 goes to AFC. Where at the end of each season, where you guys placed is how they're going to shift you off, but it's balanced placement. So obviously they're not going to just throw the losers in one and the winners in the other, but they're kind of divvying it up so that each season, depending on the strength of the roster, you're going to play this team and then you're going to play this team. But at the end of it, it's still going to be how you finish. You might be playing a completely different. I know obviously some teams don't play each other for every couple years just based off of the length of the schedule, 1 game a week. It's impossible. But do you think in order to make things a little more fair, since NFL is one of those leagues where NFC and AFC, it doesn't matter your location in the states, they're just going to have, this is what you are, and this is what you are. Would it be kind of more intriguing to see how those conferences kind of play out if they were to kind of divvy it up each season, saying your power ranking is now what's going to dictate your placing, and that placing will put you in this league and this league? Or conference to conference.
I would honestly love that. It would be more competitive games, more fun to watch on Sundays. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Versus you dial up again. We're dialing up these playoffs, and I have not watched a single NFC game from the wild card, not one. And it's just because I know those are going to be lame.
I commented this on a post that somebody posted on Twitter regarding Tom Brady, that entire conference didn't really deserve to be in the playoffs in general.
No,
the fact that the Bucks were at the top of that conference means nothing to me because it was a doo-doo conference and a doo-doo team was at the top of it. So, I mean, in my head, it really should just be almost like the NBA where they kind of just have two big conferences. Everybody's ranked top to bottom. That's it. Like it never made sense to have these smaller, and then whoever's at the top of this mini conference gets to get into the playoffs. Like, no, like there are at least 2 or 3 conferences that never deserve to get to the playoffs, and somehow they always get to the playoffs. And I'm not saying that because my Steelers didn't make it in, because they really shouldn't have made it in this year. But there are a lot of teams that should have been in the playoffs this year that didn't get a chance to get in there. Or better yet, had to play in a wild card game or whatever, or battle for the wild card spot that really should have just been in the playoffs. Like, to me, it never made sense. Like, the NFL still doesn't make sense to me, but I digress because we can't really
But great point though, because the Lions to me should be in the playoffs right now. They should be playing in the wild card.
I agree
with the way that they ran through the last half of the season, not the
Steelers,
and the Vikings.
Just throwing it in there. The Steelers went 7-2 at the end of the season. Like, we had a fantastic run at the end of the season. But
some teams catch their second win and they just pick it up.
To me, it's so dumb that you have so many teams that had higher records, but because of some team being at the top of a really crap conference, they get to go to the playoffs, like, for no apparent reason. Like, to me, that's
absolutely
like the Bucks. I'm just going to put it out there.
I mean, I'm looking at the standings. Everybody in the Bucks conference or in their division basically
had a losing season.
Had a losing season. Yeah. They were 8-9, 7-10.
Yep.
I mean, it doesn't make any sense.
All trash. Like, that whole conference shouldn't even be considered for playoffs. Like, it just doesn't make sense. Anyway, we got a little off track with that conversation, but yeah, that was a fantastic point. Honestly, like, I think as we're heading into divisional playoffs and all this other kind of stuff, it made sense for what we were talking about. But I'm going to kind of slide the conversation into something that I did preface you guys with a little bit. You guys got to see the Pro Bowl teams and got to see who made it, who didn't make it on both the offensive, defensive, and special team side. Were there any big surprises for you? Was there anybody that was left off that list that you kind of thought should be there? Or were there people that made the list that you didn't think should be there? Was there anything that was out of the ordinary at all for you guys? Oh, starting with you, Jay. I'll start with you, Jay.
I hate the Pro Bowl. I really do. I hate it. I hate it a lot. It's just a popularity contest now. It's not about anything real.
It really
because
is.
You're going to tell me that Nick Bolton, who led, or I can't remember if he led or was like second, but he led or was second in the league in tackles as a second-year linebacker. That guy's not a Pro Bowler or whatever. Like, you got to be kidding me. You know what I mean? Chris Jones made it for us. Wonderful, fantastic. Love me some Chris Jones. But yeah, it gets to be a convoluted mess when it comes to Pro Bowl selections. I think most of the All-Pros made sense to me. I do think there were a couple that kind of got it because of name, not really because they had a great year. As it always happens, right? There's always politics to sports, right? Especially awards. But overall, I think this year I don't think there's a big argument for me over all pro listings this year. I think last season there were a couple that I was like,
you're right. It was all pro listings. So that's what you guys. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's wrong. But but yeah, and then still waiting on that MVP. Just
you damn right, Jay.
Waiting on it.
So let me, because I know that is the MVP of the league never, or it could be someone that's already the All Pro first team.
Yeah, it can be.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, so they got to do all those selections. Usually, you won't find out MVP probably till like next week or like the week after.
I believe it's a week after.
Forgive me if I'm wrong. NBA does like MVP and then they make the first team, right?
That sounds right.
So I don't remember them. I think
because I feel like we had an MVP who wasn't. Oh no, that's not right. Yeah, I was like, they've been on all first teams.
Gotcha. Okay.
I think they're always on the all first team.
Yeah.
I can't tell. I can't remember.
NFL, it's very rare that you'd have an MVP that wasn't first team All Pro. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Very. I don't know if it's ever happened actually. because of how they do the voting. But yeah,
Someone
that's it
fact
for me,
check
though.
us out there.
Yeah, fact check us. Yeah, I'm good with it. I think they were all fine. I'm a little salty about Nick Bolton not being a Pro Bowler, or
I
that's
agree.
crazy.
It's funny because I had a guy from my team that, for all those who don't know the name, Alex Highsmith, he led the league in sacks for the year, but somehow just didn't get his due. I mean, I thought this might be the year that he finally gets something, but I guess because the Steelers didn't have that great of a record, maybe. I don't know. I don't know what plays into this, and the name's not that recognizable, but either way. Throwing it over to you, Nolan, were there any surprises of people who did make it or who didn't make it that you were kind of, a little thrown off about?
Considering this is my first season really paying attention to NFL, I have no qualms with the list, but that's just because it's me.
That's a
safe answer.
That's a fantastic point. You're right. That's a good point.
I didn't want to, put my foot in my mouth. I was like, it looks good. Okay, Jalen's guy is there. I have no complaints.
Like, maybe there was somebody from your fantasy team. I don't know.
Look, the way they played at the end of the season, I don't give a shit about them. On to the next.
They played fantastic at the end of the season. Did you not see? You would have won
end
the whole
of the
thing.
fantasy regular season.
Anyway, throwing it over to you, Jared. Were there any surprises for you? Anybody who you kind of saw that made it that you were a little surprised about, or people who didn't make it that you were surprised about?
I'm kind of in the same boat as Nolan. This is my first year back at fantasy. I'm not really a frequent stat checker as I used to be when I used to watch a lot of football. I know, like, from a fantasy standpoint, there were a lot of people who were disappointed with Derrick Henry this year.
Yep.
I would say, and for him to make,
you're absolutely right, brother.
I mean, I don't, sorry,
hey, fucking man.
I'm just saying, like, that was a name that would always pop up, not just here. It was like I would always hear about it, and the fact, 1,500 yards, but I know he's a dominant running back. I mean, he's a player that's known, but did he get on the team because he's known, or is it because he was well deserving of it? I can't be the honest judge of it, but if there's anybody that I kind of looked at the list that I heard like, he didn't have that great of a season in terms of fantasy wise, that's the name that popped up, at least for me.
Wait, that wasn't on the post you sent us. Derrick Henry? On what you said?
He's mentioning Pro Bowl.
Yeah, I'm mentioning the Pro Bowl.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I'm mentioning the Pro Bowl list. Yeah,
gotcha. I was like,
because I have the Pro Bowl list up, and I was kind of just stacking through the Pro Bowl list, and I was like, that's a name that when I went through,
I'm not gonna lie. I'm looking at the All Pro offense, the first team offense. I'm not gonna lie. I'm a little surprised that Devontae Adams is up there. I'm not sure, because I'm not sure if this is the first time they've done this, but they only have one running back in the first team offense selections. Usually they have two. So I'm not sure if they kind of did like the whole, like, how we have like the slot on fantasy where it's wide receiver, running back, tight end type of deal. Yeah, like a flex spot. Like maybe they did that kind of deal and put Devontae Adams in there. Truthfully, I'm kind of surprised he's up there in the top of the All Pro team.
It's such a good quarterback.
I'm not.
I mean,
I'm like, for real though. Like, Devontae Adams, say what you will about Derek Carr, he still made Derek Carr look good.
You're right.
He still put up ridiculous numbers.
You're right.
It bolstered him further when they benched Derek Carr, and he still had two big pop-off games. So for me, Devontae Adams isn't that surprising. I think Trent Williams is fine at left tackle. He's obviously been the best one all season. That's why he's on the fucking list. I hate our tackles. I really do. I despise them. I want them to just be cut and gone forever. Our interior linemen are all wonderful.
Fantastic.
Well, I'd say our center and our right guard, fucking duo Q to the death. Those boys need to get paid. Our left guard and tackles can all scoot. Orlando Brown wants primetime money, and he is basically the bottom half of every statistical category for his position.
It's crazy because I really thought he was going to be a boon for you guys. Yeah,
let him walk. Let him walk. He's awful. But anyway, Joel and Bentonio, great. Jason Kelsey, I feel like is more of a name because I can make a better argument for our center being at first team. To be completely honest with you, I feel like he does way more than Kelsey does for Philadelphia, as far as that goes. But hey, congrats to the other Kelsey brother getting in there. Obviously, Travis Kelsey has to be on the tight end list. Probably the greatest tight end of all time.
That's
It's probably a given.
Give me that. Good. Okay.
I'm slamming it down. Like I don't care. I don't want to see the thing that always gets an argument against him is like, well, he doesn't block enough. I'm like, well, yeah, that's fine, but he actually does if you pull up tape and look at his like blocking stats also. So there's that point. But the second point is people run to that argument because they're Rob Gronkowski stans. You know what I'm saying? So they're like, well, he doesn't fit the traditional tight end, so he can't be the greatest tight end of all time. And he was in a passing offense, so there's no way that he could blah, 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 blah. I was like, okay, well then like give me a tight end that could do what he does, like ever. You know what I'm saying? There hasn't been one. That's why he's the best one. Sorry. Kick returners are great. And yeah, again, no qualms with this all pro list. I got it up too. It's all
bingo bongo.
It's all good.
Yeah, I agree. It's funny because I kind of didn't have too many qualms with it. That was probably my only like somewhat, whatever idea about it. But anyway, I think that'll do it with our discussion for the NFL side of things. We're going to switch it over a little bit to the NBA side. Shout out, my Bulls.
Guys. See you later.
Shout out to the Bulls.
Shout out to the Bulls who just took down the Warriors. Vucevic with a 40-point game. Crazy. Anyway, but I'm going to kind of start off with a little bit about some of the rumors that are around the league. And like I prefaced in the chat earlier, I kind of want to see where your guys' heads are at because we're heading to the trade deadline. The deadline's coming up in February. Here are some of the rumors, and then I kind of want to see who you most likely see being traded, your least likely being traded, and then somebody or a trade that you'd like to see. And I did put non-Laker trades in there.
Son of a bitch.
So I said, I need you to talk about non-Laker trades that you'd like to see happen.
And
but
you have to say non-Bulls.
I'm not even going to talk. But some of the rumors that are out there, D'Lo as a target for the Heat, John Collins being given permission to look elsewhere, the Lakers looking at Bojan and Nerlens Noel, D Rose, Jay Crowder, Emmanuel Quickly, all supposedly on the block, et cetera, et cetera. So predictions for the trade season. I'm going to start with you, Jared. Most likely to be traded player, least likely to be traded, and then a trade that you would actually like to see. And it doesn't have to be the names I mentioned. Those are just some of the hotter rumors that are out there.
Most likely to be traded. It's so hard. I feel like D'Lo is going to be one of the big names to be traded. I can't tell you where he's going to go, but I feel like not really doing anything where he is now, and I feel like he's still a piece that can help a lot of different teams. So I feel like that could be a nice thing for him. I don't think Collins is going anywhere. I think he's free to look, but I feel like they have such a good rotation there with him included in it that they wanted to make him part of that three-headed monster, right? And, the only way you can really incorporate a three-headed monster is to give it time to work. All the big threes never really worked right away. That's what we're considering a big three. It never really worked right away, especially with that young group. That's a really young group. And so for them to get on the same page and to be a bigger part of a threat, I guess you would say, I don't think John Collins should go anywhere. I think he fits kind of well into their offense, as well as like the dynamic of his athleticism on both sides of the ball. And what was the third question? Sorry.
A trade that you'd like to see. So if there was a team that you think could use some help, or if there's a team that you think can kind of just do the reset thing, I mean, a win-win would be perfect kind of situation trade. What is your ideal trade out there that's more realistic?
My ideal trade.
That's non-Laker related.
It's non-Laker. Is to get Luka some help. So I want Seth Curry to go to Dallas. Like, that would be something for me. I would love to see Seth there. Not Steph. I like Seth. I've always liked Seth, even when he was at Duke.
Imagine, though, if Steph just like, hey, Luka, Trying to duo Q right quick.
That's not it. Yeah, that, good lord.
That would be a shellacking to everyone. That
Yeah,
would not be
good
fair.
lord. Yeah,
That'd be a spit in the face to the
that.
league.
That's
Yeah, that would.
talk about
Mark
two
Cuban is just sitting there.
superstars being on one team. That's a superstar
Jesus.
team up right there. All right, so I'm gonna throw it over to you, Nolan. I mean, most likely, least likely, one you'd like to see.
Most likely
Not
to get
Lakers.
traded. I think John Collins will be a good target. I'm kind of on the
Opposite
inverse,
side of what?
opposite kind of. Yeah, you know what I mean.
Yeah, I got you.
Because they have Capella. John Collins and him are pretty much the same thing. John Collins kind of has an outside shot, but doesn't necessarily use it. He is one of those lob guys that fits in with Trae Young. I know there's been a lot of rumors Trae Young might get shifted somewhere else, but if you can trade John Collins for some straight up shooters on the wing as a forward, I think that'll pay off more for them. You could, I don't know anyone off the top of my head, but like
For
any sort of
DeMar
stretch
DeRozan.
four.
Yeah, it's true.
Hey, honestly though, you pick up DeRozan, you trade John Collins over there for someone else. I think that could be something exciting. You got two high flyers in Levine and him. It's gonna be Lob City all over, but in Chicago.
I'm not gonna lie. That's like in my head. That's like a dream scenario. But anyway, continue on.
The one I least want to get traded first from your list, D'Lo is insignificant in the league now. He's there to shoot. But he's not someone I think
You'll be
is.
seeing all the opposite things of Jared.
I'm just saying I don't think he's a big target. I wanted to add someone that I think should get traded, and this is mainly financial gain and potential building for future, is Jordan Clarkson. If he can get traded before they do any sort of extension, before he reaches the end of this season, they can probably get some pieces because he's been showing up as such a dynamic piece for the Jazz right
I'm
now.
curious what you think because there's a rumor that just dropped this morning about the Jazz possibly trading for John Collins.
Yeah, I think that would be cool because you can offset him with Lowry at the 3 and then have him at the 4. You still have that shooting stretch forward for the Jazz, and then all of a sudden you have a high flyer. I think they still have Conley, who's facilitating
Yes.
Yep.
still like 7
do.
assists a game. If you keep Sexton, he's still a decent scorer off the bench when he's healthy.
Yes.
Jeez,
so
I forgot about that kid.
It could be
Yeah.
something exciting. I think in that kind of inverse, they'd probably give up Vanderbilt, and they probably would give up JC and maybe Sexton as well, depending on what the money breakdown is. But I think that could be a good target,
a good
especially
target.
if he's looking to rebuild himself, or John Collins is looking to kind of get that kind of name somewhere.
Actually, yeah.
And then Hawks get all these kind of scoring guys that can help them, especially in the East, where a lot of it is just high scoring stakes.
I mean, as long as Jordan Clarkson doesn't show up the way I went to that game and he did shit. And then Laurie Marketer had like 23 points at the half, and then they decided not to play him the second half, really.
I mean,
I was like, bruh, this is stupid.
is
And
that
it's against
not
the Warriors?
Is that not JC's like whole shtick? Is that he's there for some games and he disappears completely for other games?
I think he's been a little bit more consistent this season, and that's what made him a little bit notable. But yeah, I think he still has that moments where he just disappears.
Yeah, to me, he's like
Becomes
up there
completely
with
irrelevant
Jordan
at some
Poole,
point.
So
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll see how that goes. I mean, I wouldn't take JC as the
He was throwing the bait out. Who's going to take it? Nolan, are you going to take it?
I'm not taking shit today.
you know,
Yeah, I
I'm
think
just
JC
like
would be
Jordan
a
Poole,
perfect six
Kevin
man.
Durant. You know, they're just all so good at what they do.
Jesus.
Nolan lost connection. I don't think you're
What was it? What?
Yeah. Anyway.
Anyway.
Yeah.
One I do want to see get traded is Bojan, averaging about 20 points in however many seasons he's been
What a
in the league.
loss
He is
putting him on the Pistons team. Like,
exactly.
for real,
He's a
like,
spot up shooter. If any contending team right now were to move for him, that would be nothing but benefit. Especially even if he loses maybe 6 minutes per game, when he moves to the new contending team, that's still a guy who's going to hit it from the line or from the arc, no matter where he is, no matter who's kind of his facilitator. he's going to be open for the 3. Okay.
You gonna hit it from the arc. Okay.
Go
I
on.
see you,
Actually,
Bojan.
I will say that the one team I think should trade for him is the Denver Nuggets, because they don't have a straight up shooter. If you can get rid of, because you have Aaron Gordon there. Aaron Gordon's doing really well. You can kind of do some kind of little package deal, get him over there, and then send Aaron Gordon over to the Pistons to lose the end of his career. I think that it would be, if you want the Nuggets to return to being that team where it's not just Jokic's group, it's actually the Denver Nuggets coming at you during the playoffs. I think that Bojan to the Nuggets would actually be a very beneficial thing for them to do.
That's a fantastic idea. All right, fine. You can talk about the Lakers. What's the Laker trade you want to see? With all the rumors out there, what I want to hear this from both you and Jared. What do you actually want to see? Do you want to see them?
Listen, the Lakers are just a big striptease. They start sucking with their full squad. They lose AD.
I'm gonna ask you this. Because
hold on. We're just gonna walk past how you phrased what you just said by calling him a giant striptease and then starting off by sucking with AD and all the things of that nature. I'm not sure what strip club you partay to.
The words used
were not great.
Jalen, you know what I'm talking about.
What?
Anyways, no, but
oh God.
fine. I'll leave it at there a tease because we have a full squad. And all of a sudden, our team is underperforming. We lose AD, and we didn't have LeBron for a little bit, and then all of a sudden, we start pushing a ton of wins out of nowhere. Granted, some of them were mid-tier teams that we played against, but now we're looking at we're only one whole game back from 6th seed in the West. So if you have AD back, logistically, that should be able to push our team into the top tier of the West. But I don't understand if it's, obviously Westbrook is sitting into his 6-man role perfectly now. I think he's kind of gotten comfortable with it, and he is the clear-cut guy for 6-man of the year, and I feel like that's an unbiased opinion. The stats he's putting up coming off the bench is kind of unreal for a 6-man. And you're kind of looking at it as if you have AD, now you have so many weapons. I think it doesn't make sense for us to trade now because the Lakers are jacking up the front office's thought process, like, oh, do we suck or do we not suck? Are we winning games or are we not winning games? Because they keep going in these spurts and they're keeping everything in contending range, and we're barely 2-3 weeks away from the trade deadline, and now the Lakers are stuck in kind of a decision where they've already established, hey, we don't want to use up our 27 and 29 first round picks, but if you guys are going to keep winning, then we'll just ride with this roster for the rest of the season. But if you guys aren't going to keep winning, then we have to make a move, but we don't want to give up those picks. So it's either full rebuild or not. And that's where the Lakers are at, and that's why I think they're a tease, because I have no idea what they should do because they keep sending mixed signals to everyone who's watching their games.
At 100%, are they championship contenders?
At 100%, I would say they can be contenders, yes. I think they can. Because their defense is still solid. The start of the season was Westbrook still trying to figure out how to be a guy off the bench. He's finally kind of leveled into it. He's gotten his mojo back and playing in that. There hasn't really been any games where everyone's like, what the heck is Westbrook doing? He's losing the game for us. Now it's just us a matter of, is Darvin Ham making the rotations? Okay, we lost this close game in double overtime. Okay, understandable. Oh, this guy went off in this game. We tried to make the defensive switches, but he just had the hot hand, so that's why we lost this game. It's never been a clear-cut, hey, we just ran through the Lakers and won by 25 points. It's always something down the line. Maybe that's going to come with a little more time together that Darvin Ham figures out what's the right rotations. We currently don't have Reeves and Lonnie Walker, who have been injured for the past couple of weeks. Lonnie Walker is averaging like 16 points off, or as a starter, just as a scorer, and that's a lot of what the Lakers need with AD gone. So there's a lot of different things that could be in play. But once again, mixed signals. I don't know what to make of it because it's either you're going all out or you're just going to say, fuck it, and let's just trade everything away.
Jared, as a Bron fan, I'm going to swing it over to you. Do you think that they are a top team in the Western Conference, fully healthy, all 100%?
Fully healthy? I believe so. I'm going to go with Nolan's number one thing is like Westbrook finally figuring out what the fuck is going on, and then you have like the veteran leadership in Dennis Schroeder and Patrick Beverley, and then Lonnie Walker scoring the points that he does, and then you have AD who showed that when he's healthy, he's the man. He literally is the man, and that takes a lot off of LeBron. That one game that I think it was his birthday game or the game before that, where he's like, "Oh, I've been scoring 30 and it's not working. Now I got to score 40," and they start winning, and then they find a way to win. But when you have players like AD who's healthy, players like Lonnie Walker who's healthy, like that just alleviates and opens lanes for LeBron to be LeBron, like to pass the ball the way he wants to. He doesn't want to score 40 points a day. He never needed to. His career average is 27. And that's all he really needs to score as long as he has people who can put the ball in the basket and have that player that's going to also help him alleviate that scoring pressure so he can still be that offensive mastermind that he's brought into so many different teams. And even on the defensive side of the ball, I think, having like a Kendrick Nunn and Austin Reeves, having them just learn from Pat Beverly. Because, I mean, Pat, we all know Pat's a great defender and he's like the biggest pest. The fact that they can pick up on that and, he instills that dog in them in a sense. That's I think what we talked about that the Lakers were always missing through the seasons, even through their championship run. It's like that dog that Jimmy had when they played each other. That's why they went to Game 7 with the Heat.
So second part of that conversation or question, I guess, is there a trade out there that you think solidifies your thought process on them being a top contender? And I only say that because I feel like both of you guys both were kind of like they probably are a top contender. But is there a trade out there that you think absolutely 100% makes them a top contender?
I kind of just want a big.
I think I've kind of been vocal about it. I think months ago maybe when we were talking about it first. The only one that actually makes sense to me would be to trade AD for John Collins and a stretch forward or a shooting forward that at least can put up points from the Hawks. And the reason is that the reason why it's more prevalent now is because the Lakers are showing that they can win without AD. If you plug in someone else that's a good forward, Thomas Bryant's stepping the hell up for us as our center. And that's a huge thing. But now you can at least have John Collins, who will get you maybe 17 and 9. He doesn't necessarily demand the ball, but he's always going to be there by the rim if you need him. And when you push it the way that Thomas Bryant's been playing, you can have Thomas Bryant at the 5, you can have John Collins at the 4, LeBron at the 3, Walker at the 2, and then Schroeder at the 1, and that's already like a scoring output that looks really, really promising for the Lakers. If they were to make a trade, that would be the trade that I'd like.
Fantastic point.
So why are they looking at Boogie and Myers Leonard?
Because they like controversy.
Those are the guys that you pick up with.
I saw that, man. I was like,
anyways, they are the type of targets that you pick up because you can't find the right trade. So obviously there's that whole scenario. But I'm going to swing our conversation a little bit over to Jalen. To get your final thoughts. Yeah, I know because Jay didn't get to talk during this entire time, but
that's perfectly.
I'm gonna throw it over to you for a team that I believe you are actually familiar with.
The Orlando Magic.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Is the Chicago Bulls? Obviously, they just won this game against the Warriors. They have a record of, I believe, 7-3 in the last 10 games. So it has been a good stretch of games for them, but they are still near the play-in portion of the rankings for the Eastern Conference. There has been a lot of speculation out there. There's been some controversy with Levine having issues with Billy Donovan. There has been talks about this divide between both DeRozan and Levine. There have been talks about Nikola Vucevic having issues with his role. There is a lot. It's all hearsay. It's all rumors, but there is a lot that has come out from wherever it's been coming from around surrounding the Bulls team. They are a team that on paper looks like they should be doing better than they are. So I'm curious where your thoughts are about that team specifically, possibly getting into the trade side, and if you think that they are more near contending or more near just blowing this whole thing up and starting from scratch.
They're getting close to nuking the whole program. I'm going to be real honest with you. Again, I think I've said it as long as we've had the guy, but like with a big part of me says to see what you can get for Zach LaVine. Just trade him. You know what I mean? Like let's see what this market
Zach
looks
LaVine
like.
now after that 5 year.
You know what I mean? Like let's see what we can scrap together. Because I'm gonna guess that he is a catalyst to a lot of these issues because we tried to make him the guy. You know what I mean? But I thought like when we had Lonzo, like that was fine. Like he just wasn't healthy, but it was fine. You know what I mean? Like I would have much rather preferred we stuck with that, rode that out, and then traded LaVine and also added DeRozan with Kusevich or whatever the hell his name is now. Because that combo seems to be doing all right. So if there's one catalyst in there, perhaps we just.
I mean, they were about. I think the record was 38-12 with Lonzo Ball in the lineup.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean,
That's what I'm saying.
it is definitely a conversation to be had because I do think that it's. I mean, they're very much in that same enigma type of deal as the Lakers are. And they're in what we consider to be the deeper conference this year. So it obviously puts a lot of emphasis on where they are placed right now, which is out of the playoff race. So it's I really don't want to talk about the Bulls because they've been nothing but stress for me this entire year. But
Did you see the video of Lonzo Ball dunking? And
that's another whole deal. Like
I saw him running and he was like clearly limping as he was sprinting. I was like,
personally,
this man's
like
not coming back anytime soon.
I would love for him to come back. I do still believe that with him on the court, we are a completely different team. But the fact that we have to rely on this one guy to come back to be a completely different team is, I mean, it's
kind of the issue, isn't it?
Yeah, that
now,
is.
Hot take. I heard the name Derrick Rose in there for trade rumors. I think D Rose gets traded back to retire a Bull.
Jay.
I think that's going down.
Jay.
That's why he's on the block.
Jay.
But the thing is, I think they would only make that move if they do decide to blow it up, because I don't think adding Derrick Rose will necessarily help your team improve its record.
No.
But if it is the plan for them to say, hey, let's just sell the ship and let's go for it, ride the wave, that would be a nice move and definitely more heartfelt for Chicago Bulls fans.
Trade LaVine for Rose. No one's going to argue it.
Oh, okay.
No one's going to argue it.
I love Derrick Rose as the next guy, but
Doggy.
He's my guy, but wow.
I mean, but like realistically, what do we fucking make a run through the East with this lineup? No, again, I think Levine's time is done. Like, let's move along. Let's turn the page. Again, I don't think the coach is the issue, but we've seen great coaches get fired. Tubbs, or Tibbs, whatever.
Tibbs.
Tubby. Well, he was Tubby.
He was Tubby.
Tubby Tibbs.
Tibbs.
he was Tubby Tibbs.
Tubby Tibbs. In Chicago, as we've seen before.
Yeah.
Great defensive team, but
There's definitely
Again,
an argument for that one as well. So it's, Tubby Tibbs, he definitely had some had some years there with the Chicago Bulls, but
he's some good years.
yes, he did.
Could not score though.
Yeah.
Not for shit.
You're telling me
He could
he
not
also
score
ran
for
those
shit.
legs into the ground.
He sure did.
As shown by Derrick Rose over and over and over and over again. I cannot tell you how much heartache we went through those years. Good Lord.
Take my knees.
Yeah,
please take
but
mine.
really though. Anyway, this went off the rails a little bit, but I was very curious to see where your guys' heads were at as far as the trades. I do kind of agree that D'Lo's value isn't as high as he seems to be placing on himself, because there are some quotes from him stating that he believes that he should go to a team that values him He's done this shtick
Sure.
for about
WNBA will take you.
yeah. I mean, he's done this shtick for about every single place that he's been to, whether it be the Nets or the Lakers or now the Timberwolves. But he seems to always be the odd man out for how the team is being cohesive. They've got a core there that could possibly work, maybe without the toxicity there. So I do think that his value is dropping by the day, and it doesn't help that he keeps talking. It's another one of those kind of sort of Kyrie situations where just like you just close your mouth. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, you're only making it worse for you as you're heading into contract talks and all that sort of stuff. But outside of that, I mean, yeah, there aren't really. I mean, I don't want to. There are a lot of trades that I think could happen, but I definitely agree with Nolan. I think John Collins is definitely the name to be looking out for as a possible person to move because the Hawks are not doing well right now. And the Dejounte Murray thing, I don't think they're going to give up on it too early on, but they have to do something in order to kind of lift the spirits of the fan base and Trae Young.
You trade away Trae Young, you let Murray take the reins. You can get a lot more pieces for Trae, and it's going to fit in with him as a.
I'm not going to lie.
As Murray.
I think the same thing. If he's disgruntled, move on. You know what I mean? Get somebody who fits this group better than Trae Young does. We already said it from the get-go that this was going to be a weird fit. It is clearly that. It is a weird fit. You got two guys who definitely need the ball in their hands. It's not working out well. Yeah, I mean, in general, that experiment doesn't seem to be going well.
Two guys that need the ball in their hands sounds like a certain Los Angeles team that decided to make a trade for a certain somebody.
Anthony Davis, I know. I'm just kidding. Yeah, you damn right. I mean, they're another weird situation team. You got teams like the Pacers and the Jazz who are doing better than they should be doing, and they're in a weird situation. The Timberwolves.
Wait. Trae Young and John Collins for AD and the 2 picks.
That sounds actually about right. I was like,
we have no future, bud.
I mean, low-key. That's very much in the vein of the Buddy Hield, Miles Turner idea. So kind of get the same shtick with the little yeah, that could work. Wow. We're spitting some fire. You heard it here first if it happens in real life, just so we narrow that down. Anyway, sorry.
Genie Bus, hire me.
Yeah, we fell off a little bit off track here, but I just kind of wanted to get you guys' opinions within the NBA. Obviously, there's so many games to be played, but we are a little more focused in on the wild card games happening in the NFL and kind of what other NFL news that will be happening as the weeks go on. But I think that will do it for us here at Athletes Anonymous and the Poi N Soy podcast. Boys, where can the people find you? Starting with you, Jared.
On Instagram and Twitch at JShirai, JSHIRAI, and on Twitter at JShirai808.
Raja. Moving on to you, Nolan. Where can the people find you?
You guys can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and Twitch at NolanKYT, NOLANKYT.
And over to you, our star pupil, Jalen Holston. Where can the people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Jalen Holston. You can find me on Instagram at RPlayJalen. You can find me on Twitch at Mokathanos_LGG.
I almost made a joke prior to throwing that over to Jay, then thought about it before I said said joke and was like, that would not have bode well for our podcast. Anyway, I am Kieran McKee. You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and Twitch at KONee. That's KAYOHKNEE. As always, it has been a pleasure. It has been a joy from all of us here at Poi N Soy.
Good vibes and love, everybody.
Bang to bang. Shoots.
Justin Sherbert.
Yeah, Sherbert.
Trey.